I love stories. Do you like stories? What kind of stories do you like? Hi kids, this is Auntie Mila. I'm so excited to talk to you today. Come over here, sit down, listen. Did you know that this story today is the 200th story? Yes, I have 200 stories for you. I'm so excited. I'm just praising the Lord. Praising the Lord. You know, there's a verse in Psalm 9, chapter 9, verse 1. It says, I will tell of all the marvelous things that you have done. And that's why I'm telling you stories, because I want to tell you what God has done in my life, in my mom's life, my dad's life, my husband's life, our family's life, and then your life. If you give me a story, I'll tell it. Also, through the ages, stories that I grew up with. My daddy would tell me stories, and I would get so excited. Tell me another one, please. Tell me another one. And he loved telling stories, and I like telling stories about Jesus and the marvelous things he does. Well, I have a story for you today, and it's really exciting. But first, I want to tell you, did you know that I took a class on how to tell a story, a good story, from Uncle Arthur? Uncle Arthur Maxwell, he wrote the bedtime stories. And he came to my college where I was, and he offered a class, and I thought, oh, I have to take that class. Well, I have a story for you today. It's very exciting. But first, I want to go over and tell you what my top 10 stories are. The 200 stories, my top 10. I want you to know that the first one is Night Train to Busan. That is my all-time favorite story. My daddy would tell me that over and over about how my daddy was on a train and the North Koreans had set a bomb to explode the train and kill my daddy. And the angel just held his hand over the bomb and said no. God said no. And if God says no, the answer is no. If God says yes, the answer is yes. And the Bible says, who can reverse it? If God says it, who can reverse it? No one, because God is all-powerful. That's my all-time favorite story. And the second one is Faithful Susie. That was our dog, Tippy, in Korea. Her mother was Susie. And that's really a sweet story. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. And then I like the Mystery Bell story. I think that's about my third favorite, because two young Korean soldiers declare that there is a God in heaven. Okay, anyway, those are my top 10 favorites. I hope that you have seen all of those. And now for my story for today. I was about 13 years old, and I was living in South Korea with my mom and dad and two younger brothers. And I was taking my school by correspondence. It's called Home Study Institute. And I would study, they would send me the lessons. They didn't have computers when I was little. They would send me a lesson and I would just sit down and write it out, read the book, and then answer the questions, fold it up, put it in an envelope, seal it, put a stamp on it, and mail it. It had to go clear back to America, to Washington, D.C. Someone would get it, open it up, correct it, put the grade up there, and sometimes they would say, nice, or very good, good for you, or something like that, some friendly little note. And then they would send it back to me. I'd have to wait. It took a week or more to get there. They graded it. It came back another week or two. Mail was very slow when I was little. And I'd get the lesson, and then they would write at the top if I got an A or a B or whatever I got. And so that's how I took my classes. I was about 13. One evening, it was a cold evening in the winter, and we had just had supper, and we finished supper, and my mom said, well, I have to run down to Tongdaemun, that's Eastgate. I have to run down to Eastgate because my friend told me about a new seamstress that maybe could sew for us. Because when I was in Korea, if I wanted a dress, we would go to the markets, the fabric markets. There would be so many. And I'd look and look and look for a fabric I liked. I see maybe this one. And I would pull it out, and my mom would buy the fabric. Then we would take it to a seamstress, someone that would sew it. And they would say, what do you want? I said, well, I want, so I have to draw a picture of what I want. Or I would take the big Sears and Roebuck catalog or the Ward's catalog and say, this is the dress I want. And they would look at it. Then they would measure me, measure my waist, measure me all up and write it all down. And they turn around, measure, write down all the measurements. And they would have the fabric, and they had the picture. They said, okay, come back in a few days. That's how I would get a new dress. Well, my mom's friend told her about a new seamstress that was supposed to be really good. And my mom said, oh, well, that's great. That's wonderful. And so after supper, my mom had an appointment with her friend to go and see the seamstress. And my mom told us kids, Daddy was there at home, I have to run down and I'll be right back. And I thought and thought, and she says, Mila, do you want to come with me? I said, yes, I do. She said, well, get your coat on, it's cold. So I went and I got my coat on, and we got in the truck, and we drove down to pick up my mom's friend, and then we drove down to Eastgate Market. That's a suburb of Seoul, Korea. We went to Eastgate, and then we stopped, and we locked the car and got out, and my mom's friend said, now follow me. We said, okay, so we started following, and it was dark. Back then they didn't have street lights, they didn't have a lot of lights. At least on the outskirts of Seoul they didn't. And so it was really dark, and we were kind of looking our way, and we were just following right behind my mom's friend because she knew where to go, even in the dark. So we were following her down this way, down this street, and then she turned and she started down this little alley. And there was a big building on this side and a big building on this side, and there was just a little ways to walk through. And it was so dark, we couldn't see anything. And I grabbed my mom and said, Mom, do we have to walk down that alley? And my mom said, well, we'll be okay. We'll just walk fast. We'll follow her. And she said, yeah, this is the best way to go. And so we started following her. And we were walking, and I could not see where I was going. And I don't think my mom could see. We could have stepped on something. We were walking along. And then we could barely see the light at the end, like at the end of a tunnel, but it was these big buildings. Remember, it was very dark at night, and we could barely see some light at the end. So we were walking. of a sudden, I heard a roar. And I grabbed my mom in my heart. There was someone sleeping there in the alley, and when they heard us, they jumped up and scared us. Ah, my heart. I hung on to my mom, and we kind of rushed on by and got clear down. We came out onto a street, and we turned, and we came to some very nice Korean houses. And we went to the door. There was a gate, and we rang the bell, and a maid came to the door. And she says, and they talked. Oh no, Mrs. Kim, the lady we wanted, was not in. Can you come back tomorrow night? And she said, okay. They talked and talked and talked. And old traditional Korean houses are beautiful. There was this gate and pillars, and we said, okay. We turned around and walked back. I thought, no. Do we have to walk through that alley again? I don't want to get scared again. And I said, Mommy, is there another way to go? Please, can't we go this way or that way? So my mom asked her friend, she said, is there another way to go besides the alley? She said, no, that's really the fastest way. Oh, no. And so I thought, I've got to be brave. I have to walk through that alley again. What if that man scares us? And I was trying to be real brave. Remember, I was 13 years old. That's not real big. And so I was holding on to my mom's hand, and we were walking. And then my mom's friend turned into that alley. I thought, oh, here it goes. And we walk. All of a sudden we heard and we rushed on by. That man enjoyed scaring people. We heard him laughing. He would sleep there. If someone came by, he wouldn't scare because he was wearing dark colors, and he was against the wall there, and nobody would see him. I'm sure he did that all the time, but it scared me to death. And we walked on out and went back and unlocked the truck and got in. Drove home. I says, Daddy, you're not going to believe what happened. And I said, Rennie, Larry, my brothers, you're not going to believe what happened. You need to go with Mom tomorrow night. Well, the next night after supper, my mom said, well, we're going to go back to find that Mrs. Kim again. Mila, do you want to go with me? I said, no, I'm going to stay home. I didn't want to go and get scared all over again. And so my mom said, oh, he was just having fun, just trying to scare you. And I thought, he did. He really scared me. So my mom went by herself with her friend. And I said, Mom, I want to stay home. I don't want to go. That was just a little too scary for a 13-year-old. And so my mom went. And I was waiting and waiting. An hour or two later, she came back and I said, Mom, did you walk down that dark alley? Mom said, uh-huh. Did that man scare you? She says, uh-huh. Did you jump? She says, uh-huh. Ah! I said, Mom, why do you have to go at night? She says, well, my friend says that's the only time we can catch this lady in her house because she's so busy. Well, that is the story of Mr. Boo. Mr. Who knows what his name was, but he scared me to death. But I was saved, and I'm alive, as you can see, alive as can be. Thank you for joining us for our 200th video story. Stories, Auntie Mila stories, just for you, just for kids. And you know what? You should tell your friends about this so they can hear stories about how Jesus delivers. I want to pray. Dearest Father in heaven, thank you so much that I've made 200 stories for kids. Lord, I love you. Thank you for always saving us and protecting us from dangers and from everything. We love you for Jesus' sake. Amen. And now I'm going to say goodbye, and then I'm going to go and start editing, and I'm going to start researching more stories to put on YouTube just for you. So I'm headed for my next 200. Okay? Bye!
Auntie Mila.